Hello, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Aaron Kent, and I'm a solutions architect and work for the Verizon Business Group inside of the ATG. This video will cover how to connect to Cisco's dCloud environment for the purpose of doing demonstrations for your clients. You can also use this for education and training within the ATG. You'll need a workstation or laptop computer in order to conduct these demonstrations. I recommend using a workstation or computer that has multiple web browsers installed. You might not always need this, but at times you may wish to access multiple web pages as multiple users, and leveraging separate web browsers allows you to facilitate this simply. Next, you'll need to use Cisco's AnyConnect VPN client and an internet connection. You'll also need a remote desktop client. On my workstation during these demonstrations, you'll see that I use something called Microsoft's Remote Desktop Connection Manager. Just allows you to open up multiple remote desktops with a single click, and I just find it easier to use. Now, depending on your goals and your objectives of these demonstrations, that might be all you need. However, there might be demonstrations when you need to go onto a customer site and have physical devices with you to do those demonstrations. So in order to do that, you may need to procure a router or have a router sent to you from Cisco. There are step-by-step instructions on how to connect a dCloud router, and they have some suggested router types. However, most of them are old. So there's also steps on how to configure or connect a non-standard router to the environment. Pretty much all you need is the serial number and the iOS code type, and that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's get started. As I said, all you need to do to get started is use a web browser. During the demonstrations today, I'll mainly be using Chrome. So we'll just enter dcloud.cisco.com and then choose login. It remembers my login information. It may not do this for you. And then you go ahead and log in. All right, so upon logging in, we'll land on what I've set up as my home page. This is something that you configure. So I've set my home page to be my hubs and on the favorites. Favorites are just things that you've tagged or starred, so it's easier for you to go back to these sessions and schedule or view them. We're going to be covering both scheduled instances as well as instant demos that you do not need to schedule. So we'll leverage this package CCE environment 11.6 version 3. Version 3 just means that it's the third instance or the third iteration of the demonstration bundle or the demonstration package. They may have tweaked things or tuned things, taken things out, added, but if you have any questions about it, all you have to do is click on the session ID or the session favorite name, and it gives you a quick description of what's provided inside of that. There may be some promotional videos that you can leverage for showing customers what might be something you can demonstrate, and then what's new and the scenarios. The scenarios also cover the components inside of the environment and then the requirements. As I talked about in the introduction, you could see that all you need is a laptop and AnyConnect with an internet browser, and here they're talking about using a mobile phone. Mobile phone is probably for doing interactions with a web page or a mobile web page, maybe demonstrating Cisco Answers, or that's Cisco's version of Google Answers, or maybe a SMS or chat on a phone when interacting with a omni-channel client or ECE. Also here under optional, they show that you can use a router. Again, this is just really if you wanted to have physical devices at a customer site, or you don't want to mess around with leveraging the AnyConnect VPN. You can connect the Cisco dCloud router in and then just connect in behind that. This is great for when you're going out to a customer's site ahead of time and you ask them to set up multiple VPN access, and they say, we can't do that, but we can give you a single port. Then you could just hook up the router behind that, and then you could have multiple devices behind that router. All right. Under the feature section, you could see what is going to be the features and functionality provided by this demonstration. As you can see, there's a lot here for this. We have all of the CCE capabilities and features, as well as the Finesse Agent Desktop, CYC, ECE, like I talked about, the enterprise chat and email, the eGain Solve solution, which extends the ECE capabilities, upstream work for Finesse, operation analytics from eGain, Acqueon, campaign management, so you can have advanced outbound campaign management. Booker and Suitor SFDC connectors. So this gives you a really powerful CTI gadget that extends the capabilities of Salesforce.com, whether it be the Lightning instance or the legacy instance. I'm not exactly sure with this build or this version of 11.6. And then also there's the workforce management offering from Verint and Zoom. Now, this is not Zoom, the conferencing company. This is Zoom International, which is the quality management capabilities. They have live agent recording, less live speech analytics, screen and app desktop recording, as well as voice and video recording. So they have some pretty cool features and functionality that's comparable to NICE or Calabrio or Verint. And again, I'm a big fan of them, but I've been working with them for a number of years prior to joining Verizon, and I've heard that in the past people have had problems with them. This is a shameless plug for them. I think they're amazing, and it's not necessarily that their product is amazing. It's how well they stand behind their product and how much their customers really love them. So as a partner reselling their solution, I'm sure we'd get some phenomenal support, as well as their margins are great. So whenever we're trying to make additional margin, I'd recommend using Zoom Quality Management. Also, you'll see a topology. So the topology is just to show you kind of what it is that you'll be connecting into. The items here in green, Workstation 1 and Workstation 2, is predominantly what you'll be using for the demonstrations here. But if you want to see what else is installed in this environment, you can see that there's a logger, which is a combined router logger. There's a peripheral gateway, your admin workstation, the Verba, Nuance, CVP, virtual voice browser, which is kind of like your CRS or UCC Express type instance. It's very, very similar to the UCCX administrative workspace. You also have Social Miner, a web server, CYC, Finesse. There's a remote desktop gateway that's in here. I think that's what RP is. The branding server is a web page or hosted server that you can hit that allows you to create a customer facing instance. So let's say you wanted to create a branded interface that looks like your customers. There's some tools that you can go out and scrape the customer's website and then insert some JavaScript code to allow you to do some of the click to call capabilities and whatnot, just a branding. And we might cover that, we might not. Also the LCM from Acqueon, analytics, the eGain capabilities for eGain answers, call manager. So again, we're using 11.6 of enterprise contact center, excuse me. And so the version of instant message presence is 11.5, call manager is 11.5. Also have the virtual cube instance here as well. All right. So the endpoint kit would be if you're deploying your own router connected into this, I believe, as well as PSTN services. For the PSTN services, you're provided a DID or a set of numbers to call in, and they're always the same. I just want to caveat that they're always the same range of numbers. So once you get used to using the environment when you schedule it, they might give you a new set of external telephone numbers. However, the internal instance or all of the internal workstation, agent, webhooks, everything that you'll be using are usually the same or always the same, excuse me. The only time it's different is when you move from version. So let's say you wanted to use CCX version 12 versus CC or package CCE 11.6. Of course, the telephone numbers will be different. And of course, the external dial-in number or DID will be different for hitting the different interfaces. All right, so that's a real quick rundown of how to leverage the information inside of the different catalogs. And then when you click on resources, what it'll bring you up is all of the documents that you'll use to customize potentially the environment. If you want to create customer profiles, it'll walk you through that and the different demonstration scenarios. All right. So what I've done is I've went ahead and I've downloaded a PDF from that. And here you can see that there's the package Contact Center Enterprise. I also want to show you that there's also the package Contact Center Enterprise instant demos. A lot of this information is the same. Really the main difference between the instant demo and the reserved demo is that the instant demo, you create a 4-digit telephone number and you will be prefixing that into the instance. So let's say 2201 is my agent personal extension for agent 1 and 2301 is the agent line extension. In the instant demo, let's say I created a extension of 8001, I would now have an 8-digit extension, right? So it'd be 8001, sorry, 8001, and then the 4-digit extension on that for the agent and the personal line. Okay, so just wanted to bring that up. Now, when you're looking at doing dCloud, if you wanted to use a non-instance demo, you would schedule. When you click on the schedule button, you can schedule a single session or multiple sessions. For today, we're just going to schedule a single session. Now, what you can see is if the session's been booked. It's important to check ahead of time because it'll tell you if a pod is unavailable or if it's already been booked. Okay, so here it's going to default and it's going to give me a 4-hour block, I believe, by default. Yeah, 15:30 to 19:30. So I can tweak this or tune this however I want, but I'm going to change this just because I want it to start immediately. So I'll just click the Now button. It'll change the time to now, and the end time is fine. All right. I can also add some additional information when I hit next here, like why am I using it? So as you can see, only the required fields you need to input. So I could put that this is just for a training event. So let me just go ahead and put partner event. Impact on revenue is 0. Customer name, I can put NA. All right, that's all I have to put in, and I'll hit schedule. Now, some of the things to keep in mind here, when you're scheduling these sessions, they could take up to an hour or an hour and a half for them to start. Once they've actually started, you can go back here and you can extend your session by hitting edit and extend it. However, I believe if you need to extend it more than 4 days, it's going to ask you to reach out to your channel team. And once it's finished starting, you can click download details and it'll just download a CSV file for your VPN access on your AnyConnect client. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording now and pick it back up once the recording is done. Excuse me, once the session is started. I'm going to pause it now if I can find my Camtasia. Okay. Actually, we're going to go ahead and pick back up. While that's starting, I want to cover a few things here. So I talked about before you could set up your routers. So if you go under routers, you can see if I've already added one, and here I haven't. If you click add new router, it's going to ask you to name that and put in the serial number. That's really all you have to do. The reason that you need to do that is when the router registers, it's going to push a configuration to it, I believe. And here, like I talked about, there's some older legacy versions of routers. I happen to have a 871 router, 871, excuse me, an 891 router that I could hook up, but I'm not going to just because I don't think we need it for this demonstration. All right, and then also under my profile, I can set where I want my data center preference to be. So here I could set it to East, West, Asia Pac, Global China, or EMEA, which I believe is in London. I can also set my preferred email. It's important that whatever your CCO ID is linked to this. And if you didn't see it, you can log in with not only your CCO ID, but you can log in with a GitHub account. I think there's even Facebook for authentication. And then if you've booked sessions in the past, you might notice that when you log in, you'll have this red bell. This is just asking me to, rate my sessions, or it's telling me that my session's available. So I can acknowledge all those by just clicking see more, clear them out, and then they should go away. All right, now again, back on my profile page, I can set my favorites or my home page. When I set this to my favorites page, that takes me under my hub, and the favorites button. So every time I log in, it brings me here. All right, just a little tricks of the trade. Now, when I look on sessions, I can see that I have one scheduled, and I can see that it's set to start at 15:23. It is now 15:22. So if we wait just one moment, we'll see that it'll start. It'll say, instead of scheduled, it'll say starting. So let me refresh my page. Okay, it still says scheduled. Give it another minute or two, and we'll see it go ahead and start up. Let me pause the recording. All right, so now it's 15:23, or actually 15:24 on my local computer. It's now changed the state of starting. What to take a note of here is if you're doing any of the demonstrations where you're using like a mobile app, or you have to reference your session ID for anything that you might be installing from the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, it might ask you to enter information about the session ID or the virtual session. So that information can be found here under your sessions. Okay. It'll also be found inside of your download details. And again, the download details will tell you your username and your password. It downloads in a CSV file. So this could take up to an hour, hour and a half, as I've stated before. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and we'll resume once it's done starting. Thanks. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here to make a loud noise. All right. So that's starting, and we'll pick up when it's done starting. All right, so I've decided to actually do a Contact Center Express demonstration because it'll actually start up much quicker. There's a lot less components. So what I'm going to do is show you how to cancel or end a session that you've started. All you do is click Edit, and you can see here, this is how you could extend it by hitting Update. You could change the time that you want it to end at. So let's say I wanted to end it at 11 on, let's say I wanted it to end 11 p.m. So now when I click on edit, you can see now it's ending at 11 p.m. I can also cancel, right? I could also look at the endpoints that I want to add in. So if I had available routers that I wanted to dynamically add into this instance that I'm starting, again, the session ID there, I could select them from my available routers and then put it in there. So that way I don't have to configure that router. It would be dynamically configured. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel to to stop this from starting up. Yes, I want to cancel this PCCE instance. And now you'll see it's gone to stopping. What'll happen after it's stopped, it might notify me up here in the top right. I might get a bell alarm saying that the session has stopped, and it'll ask me if I was able to save any time. Basic survey questions. You don't have to fill that out, but if you are doing a customer demo, I would recommend that you fill that out. Okay. Now I can go back to my session button here, refresh this screen. Okay, and here I have my scheduled UCCaaS 12.0 version 2. And that's what we're going to be doing the demo from today. Just again, it'll start up in about 45 minutes versus could take up to 2 hours, and I'm trying to get this done quickly. You can cut that part out. So pausing the recording. Okay, so while we're waiting for the decloud to start, I just wanted to cover a few items that could help you with your demonstration. So here we have an example of a potential customer who is looking for a new solution to leverage their existing infrastructure investment, but also to consolidate and drive some of their business goals. So I've talked about in some of my other videos SciPab or the SCI-PAB methodology of conveying a understanding of a customer's situation complication and the implications of doing nothing with the problem at hand, but also the position that we're going to take, the actions that will be recommended, and the benefits that will be reaped by the solution being presented. So the first SCI is really understanding the customer's situation and telling it back to them. making sure that they have a good feeling that you have a grasp of their problem at hand. And by using the customer's words, the customer's problem statements, looking at their 10K, looking at some of the forward-looking statements and risks that they themselves have stated to their shareholders, you position yourself in a way that you're speaking their language. So what I've done is I've just leveraged a scenario that we used for our UC Masters audit in 2019 and just taken down some of the high level comments here. So let me go ahead and share with you, what is it that we're trying to do. So what is the direction of the customer, right? What have they stated as their direction, or what are they looking for forward-looking statements? So we want to make sure that we identify the CFOs, the CEOs' agendas. So that could be their business issues, financial issues, long-term goals, the current climate of their situation, as well as implications for the solution at hand. Also, making sure that we explain how our relationship with Cisco is superior to others. And that Cisco relationship is not just that we're a gold partner and that we have a huge professional services organization, but also our underlying network that allows us to stitch solutions together and give an unparalleled end-to-end visibility of the solution that we're proposing. Now, taking a look at who this customer is, and again, this could be any customer that you're talking to, we want to know who they are. So here we have Archel Industries, which is a manufacturing company. We have an understanding of when they were formed and where they're at, some of the other regions that they operate in. Here we have a global customer, and getting an employee count, understanding who they have bought or who comprises their organization today, where their data centers are, how many IT employees they have running their infrastructure, understanding their profile types or their customer, their employee personas, understanding their goals of where they were in the past, what's brought them to where they are today, and where they want to go in the future. So having a couple clearly stated objectives, again, will bring light the fact that you understand who they are. Looking through the news and where they're going to is also another recommendation when you're setting the stage for your positioning on the Cisco contact center solution in this case. Looking at the acquisitions that they had, as I stated before, you can look, did they purchase or procure an acquisition with a company that's much like themselves, or did they go out and buy another company to gain a new foothold or new entrance into the market space where they haven't previously been? Also, looking at some of their current issues and challenges is a great idea. You can see where they've struggled. In this case, with this customer, they have had siloed IT across regions with no real standards, which most customers in the enterprise space have traditionally struggled with in the past. So it might still be that way. They've probably ran projects to remove those silos and break down those barriers and provide a single enterprise infrastructure. But as we know, most IT projects fail because they don't hit the objectives that were first laid out. And also some other problems that enterprise customers have that across all verticals is that they've taken, instead of a mega vendor approach, with one single SI, they've probably piecemealed solutions together. So in this case, they had, I think, 32 people on their engineering staff with multiple SIs, with multiple different service providers that they've kind of strung together to provide them the outcomes they had originally planned for, but they still hadn't reached. And then coming full circle, what is it that we want to deliver for them? Are we going to do a consulting engagement? Are we doing a traditional PS engagement, doing a prepare, plan, design, implement, operate, and optimization from a day two managed services perspective? Or are we just coming in to do an implementation where another SI or another vendor's come in, like the Accentures, and done all of the legwork, and now we're just looking to produce the outcomes that tie back to those business requirements. So understanding all of this and putting this into a presentation for your customer is important, not just the demo. Doing a demo is great, but you have to make sure that you link the demo and the outcomes that the demo is really highlighting to the customer, or else it's not going to really hit them in a way that's very beneficial. It's not going to resonate. It's not going to stick with them, and they're probably going to forget about that demo after the fact. But if during the demo you're really highlighting some of the challenges that they've had, well, then you're certainly going to be impactful, and that demonstration is something that they might ask you to redo for other stakeholders in their environment. Okay. So again, we were talking about Arch-Hill Industries, this demonstration. This is a joint demonstration that we've done or put together with Collaboration and Contact Center. The collaboration demonstration is very, very impactful by using multiple different persona types, multiple different user types, and lots of different equipment, demonstrating the equipment live during the demonstration in a EBC was received very well, excuse me, and it really resonated with Cisco when we did the demonstration and presentation for them. And likewise, it would probably resonate with your customers. But today, since we're focusing on contact center, I will jump down to the contact center portion of this presentation. So specifically, here in the speaker's notes for this, we talked about contact center challenges that, the legacy environment of providing butts and chairs and answering telephones as the only channel doesn't work anymore. The saying, hello, who are you? How can I help you doesn't really work. If you're inviting customers to your house for dinner, you don't answer the door and say, who are you and why are you here? You know them, you respect them, they respect you. You're inviting them over because you value the friendship. And it should be the same way in contact center. When you're inviting somebody to engage with the brand, you should know who they are. You should know how they want to engage with you based on previous engagements or based on their persona type. Okay. No longer, if you get service from a contact center, being happy for that, you want to make them engaged in the conversation. You want to make sure that when they walk away, they leave feeling like this was a worthwhile engagement. Or again, likewise, if they're wishing to engage with your brand in a much more self-service capacity, and it's the persona that wants to engage without human intervention, you service them quickly, fast, efficiently. You get them to the answers right away. So, so there's some speaker's notes here in this presentation that you could go over with them, making sure that you cover what it is that you're going to demonstrate, what the infrastructure looks like, and explaining that, while there might be 30 some odd servers in the enterprise or 20 some odd servers in the express type demonstration, these are virtual instances. You might only need 4 or 5 UCS servers, or if we're doing VMware on AWS to deliver these services, or if we're packaging these up in Kubernetes, you're making sure the customer understands that this is not a bare metal implementation of 30 servers, because in this case with Archo, they were very cost conscious. And then moving into the demonstration, you want to make sure that you tell them what you're going to demonstrate and why the demonstration is important to them. You're going to want to do the demonstration, and then after the demonstration, you're going to want to take time to say, we told you that we would demonstrate this. We showed you that this is the demonstration, and we proved the value outcomes of the demonstration. And that's the entire solution that we're proposing for them, right? So that way, it again, like I was talking about before, it's impactful for them. And again, it's tied back to their current situation, and you're meeting their business outcomes by tying it all back. And then, at the end of it, you want to make sure that you tie in a little bit of the value proposition that we have as being a gold partner with Cisco and our professional services. But again, like I talked about before, you want to talk about the value of our network. network, the value that we provide by giving them end-to-end visibility to not only the network, but the call flows, the engagement types, the guaranteed quality of services that they may be looking for, and also touching on other areas, how SDN and virtual network functions are becoming, a thing of the present, no longer a thing of the future. Looking at 5G and edge compute with Mac, talking about those forward-looking statements and how you can push those capabilities to the edge, doing fog computing and Mist type engagements. That's what customers are looking for, right? Making sure that they understand that we know what's coming down the pike for the future and being ready to service them as their needs grow, as their customers' needs grow. All right, and that's the presentation. We could be sure to share it with you if you'd like. I'm sure we'll bundle it with this demonstration. But now we're going to switch back to the D Cloud. Okay, so as you can see, the D Cloud session did start up. And here's the dcloud package CCE that we started and then stopped right away. Again, because this isn't for a customer-facing demo, you can decline to take the survey. So looking at the Contact Center Express, we can bring that up. We can click on the info button, and we can see what my host for my AnyConnect is, what my user is, and my password. Again, I talked about all of the internal DNs being the same every time that you do these. And again, if you're doing the the instant demo or the always on demo, then there's going to be a 4-digit prefix that you created when you started up your instance. Real quick, I wanted to make note of the fact that while dCloud is a robust solution, sometimes there are issues. So if you know you're going to be going into a customer situation and you want to make sure that you have a backup for your demonstration, here I've got RTP. I could hop over into the West and start up another instance of this dCloud by just going over to West, searching for this session, finding the content, and then just starting it up over there. So there's going to be an exact mirror on SJC as there is on RTP, so East and West. And I could go ahead and I could book this or schedule this demonstration so that way if there are issues, I can quickly disconnect from my AnyConnect VPN, reconnect, and it'll be very, very similar. The only difference is that your DIDs will probably be different, or will actually be different, because you're going to be calling instead of a 919 number in RTP, you'll be calling like a 408 number out in SJC. All right, and again, if you're doing the instant demo, it's very much the same. The one thing to make note of is that if you create a instant demo access on the East Coast, it does not mirror to the West Coast. You'll have to create them both, and there's some gotchas to that. So I'll let you dig into that if that's something you want to do by reading the related documents. Let's jump back over to RTP. So that's US East. All right, now if we look at this session here, again, if we click View, it'll take us to the infrastructure. We could see the server information. From here inside of the dCloud with the servers, you can enable the status polling. And why that's important is that maybe you're having issues accessing CUIC. You could see if the server was down or if you were having issues. Here you can see that the guest OS is running. From here, you could also reboot the guest OS. You can shut down a server and turn it back on. So you have a lot of the CIMC controls to be able to manage the dCloud or the virtual environment. Okay. The other thing is that if you want to have a jump server, there also is a jump server. So if you want to connect in without having to VPN, I believe that option is available as well. And then the resources that are available, just like when we looked at before, those same guides that are available on if you go back to your My Hub and look at your favorites, here the CCE version 12, when I click on this, all of the resources that are available here, right, these demonstration guides, will also be available inside of My Hub when I go to this session that I reserved and I click on View. and then click on resources, it's exactly the same content there. All right. If you ever have any issues, you can also join the UCCX dCloud WebEx Teams forum. So if you're experiencing issues, you can open up a support ticket, but you can also post requests there where the developers or the SEs that create these pods can get feedback from you on what's working, what's not working, any additional information you'd like to see. All right. So I've already pulled up the demonstration. Oh, this is for version 11.6 of PCE. So let me close these down and get the UCCE version. So I've saved these off to my local computer just to make it easier for me to navigate that. So here's all of the demonstration guides that we'll be using today. There's the outbound dialing, Salesforce.com, workforce optimization, and finesse. Those are the five different demonstrations or four different demonstrations that I think most customers are going to want to see. So, what is the Finesse desktop like and how does it differ between version 11 and version 12? The Finesse agent desktop experience is exactly the same between PCCE, UCCE, and UCCX, the actual agent facing experience, as well as what you can do from an administration perspective. It's all pretty much the same. Workforce optimization. So from this perspective, it could be either Verint or it could be Calabrio. You also have Salesforce.com integrations with the Booker and Suitor. Outbound dialing. So there's the Acqueon LCM offering, as well as the basic outbound dialing that's available from the system itself. And just the different agent experiences that you can do. We'll look at a little bit of the script editing, and that's what we'll be taking this customer through for the demonstration. All right, that knock on the door was my kids telling me to come out. So I'll finish the recording later because it is over the weekend. So I'm going to stop this recording and pick back up in a little bit. All right. So now we could see the details for this. And here I can find my AnyConnect VPN client, my username, and my password. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire that up real quick. There's a little copy button here. And connect. All right, one thing to note about the AnyConnect is that you'll have split tiling enabled. So you should be able to connect into your environment. And if you have anything on your local network that you need to be able to gain access to, you should have that as well. All right, so again, I said I was going to be using the remote desktop connection manager. So I should have my scheduled pod in here. Let me just make sure that these are all working. So I could right click on my scheduled sessions and connect the group. Hopefully it all works, and it does. Okay. And here I have one of the other reasons I like the remote desktop connection manager is that when you have a group, you can see all the workstations that you've connected and the status. And what I've done is, and the pods are set up this way. If they're not, I go ahead and change them. Is I make sure that I know who my agent is and who my supervisor is. So now, whenever I'm doing any work on an agent side computer, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm using Sandra's PC. Anytime that I'm doing anything on the supervisor side, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm using Rick. And if I want to do any demonstrations of the web pages or show experiences of an agent not being logged in and then logging in, or show any experiences with IM and presence versus the presence inside of Finesse, I can use Josh's computer for that as well. So it's just something that, again, I choose to do. And I believe that a lot of the lab guides follow that as well. So we're going to jump back over to the resources. And again, this is a CCX environment, so it's not going to be as robust as the enterprise offering, but from a demonstration perspective, I think you can kind of make it seem like it's a lot of the same, unless you have to show any of the administration. But from a basic finesse and MACD type experience, as well as outbound dialing campaigns, if it's very basic, you can pretty much use the CCX environment to do that. And then same thing with AI and bot using Cisco Answers. If you wanted to do any chat application demos using mobile applications that are available from the App Store or from the Play Store for Android and iOS, you could demonstrate that. And again, you don't really have to explain what's going on behind the scenes unless the customer wants to see the administration. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my demonstrations. So again, I have 4 demonstrations or 3 demonstrations. The first one talking about, what's the agent experience like, what's the supervisor experience like, as well as, an agent who might be logged in or not logged in. The next will cover administrative side configuration for a supervisor to have the ability to make their MACD activities, do some basic script changes, things along those lines. I'm also going to show a Salesforce.com integration. And lastly, I think what I'll do is some outbound administration. Some of these will require calling in to the contact center, so I'll be using my cell phone for that, and I'll be trying to capture that audio during those sections. So let's begin. All right, so at this point, you can crop this out because I'm just going and getting the content up. So that is on my desktop. Okay, and I have a little bit of a script here that I could use. Just want to make sure that I have everything ready to go. All right, so what you see here is my walkthrough. And the reason that I have a walkthrough is that I want to make sure I'm hitting all the points as expected for this customer, as well as making sure I'm using the right workstation, moving between different devices, etc. Just making sure that I don't miss something that might be of interest to them. Also, again, that whole SciPab thing that I was talking about, making sure that I'm connecting with them and making sure I'm explaining that I understand their issues and using some of their terms would be helpful. So normally during this demonstration, if I was doing this, I would not have the demo walkthrough up on my screen, but I'm just using this for an example. So let me go back to the PowerPoint that we're using for this customer presentation. Okay. All right. So we talked about this intro, the customer challenges. We talked about the architecture. We've moved into the demo. And then we're going to want to grab their attention again because maybe they're looking at their handhelds or they're doing something else. Uh, so let's go ahead and do that. So we know you're excited that you really wanted to see the Salesforce.com integration and see what that looks like, but we'll get to that soon. Before we do that, we wanted to take a few minutes to show you some of the added value of moving to Cisco for your contact center platform. The operations team has expressed concerns on how they are forced to maintain and manage a distributed agenting platforms across the country and around the world. And they also feel that it's very difficult to handle the more complex move, add, changes, delete requests because contact center is not their day-to-day skill set. Even if they're doing any UC, it's more on just regular run-of-the-mill type moves, adds, changes, not really on the contact center side. So with the Cisco platform, many of those features and capability sets requiring change controls can now be done on the supervisor's desktop. So before we get going, let's look at that unified contact center supervisor desktop. So again, because I've talked about Rick Barrows being my supervisor, and I actually created the login here as Rick Barrows as being the supervisor. When I double click on this or click down to workstation 3, it comes up on my full screen. And from here, I can make sure that my presence is logged in. Okay, I see Josh is offline. And then I can go ahead and launch my Finesse desktop. So in these pods, they have multiple browsers. So I like to use Chrome, and all of the browsers homepage should have some sort of demo quick links, right? And they do have them here. So if you ever forget any of the logins, you could see that they're right here on the page, as well as any of the Finesse logins. So here it's my username and Cisco 12345 with the C1 capitalized. Looking at the branded websites, any of that stuff is right here. Same thing for Salesforce.com. So let's jump into the supervisor desktop. So I'll go ahead and launch the supervisor desktop. Here I might start talking about the differences between the agent desktop and in Express versus Enterprise, if they really wanted to know some of those differences. But I might also hit on the fact that this version is a little bit different than the previous version 11. So version 12 has moved some things around on the agent experience. So you could also see that there's some fake data in here where we're simulating some other users talking, being not ready, different reason codes. Okay, so let me go ahead and change my size here. So let me zoom out just so it all fits on one screen. Okay. All right. So if you'll notice on the supervisor desktop as well as the agent desktop, it's a web browser. So one of the benefits of using Finesse is that whenever there's any software changes or any new feature sets pushed, you don't have to go around and patch workstations. The next time they open up the browser, or if there's a moving between the different tabs, next time it pulls the Finesse server, those changes should take effect. Also, you no longer have to worry about the tabs across the top. There's now this menu board on the left-hand side, and as you see, there's a little thumbtack. You can unclick the thumbtack, and it'll minimize when it's not being used. And let's say I wanted to maintain that or keep it tacked on the left-hand side, I could go back and hit the thumbtack. Here on the team data screen, I can get some live reports. Again, this is a fictitious data, but I can drill down into this, or I could open these up by clicking on it, and I could look at potentially some of this data, but we don't need to do that for the demo unless your customer really wants to know that. You could look at any queue data. Again, this is all just using CUIC and putting these reports into these different views. Or you could create custom CUIC reports and bring that into the system as well. All right, so these are the canned kind of reports. You can look at customer journeys where they've entered into the environment. So I don't know if I have any data in here, but I could do a query on my last name and see if I have any data in here. Let's see, Aaron Kent. I am in there because I have a context journey, and you could see that this is some of the stuff that I've had engagements with over the last few months, right? So here there's some stuff in Salesforce that was logged. There was an active call, okay, and who was handled by, some tags that were on it. Could do some activity on this, or look at other activity, excuse me. But you can also create requests in here, right? So we don't really need to get into that, but hypothetically, you wanted to create a customer. There was a new customer calling in, but you wanted to create them so that way they were able to be tracked in the journeys. You could do that here, or you could do it in context services. So I created mine in context services, I believe, in version 11, and they've shifted some of that information over here to what they call journey. Right. So if I wanted to, send a announcement to the team, I could do that here, or I could do that from up in the supervisor team message, right? So I could send an announcement here, and this announcement would go to WebEx Teams. Okay, so we do have an integration to WebEx Teams, or I could send the announcement inside of the Fitness Agent desktop. So hypothetically, I wanted this in the message to all the teams, and I wanted to send it for just maybe 30 minutes. I could select that, and then I could enter in remember to do your timesheet. And what's nice about this is as soon as I hit send, I'll get it on the top of my screen because I'm a member of this group as well of these agent contacts, excuse me. So I'll be able to see what they're saying. And if I wanted to send another one, test, and just send it for 5 minutes, or let's do 10 minutes. You can see that now I have a red indicator letting me know that I have another message. If I scroll right, you can see who it came from and what it says. And as you saw, as soon as I hit 2 of 2, the red message went away, and it's no longer a new message for me. Across the top, you could see some of the information that's been entered in. These are just simple updates that have been made to the Finesse server to my login profile to change like customer logo, customer name. Here, because it is an omni-channel client, you can change your voice queue to ready, or I could change my email and chat, excuse me, enterprise chat and email, ECE, to ready, or leave it as not ready. All right. Under the manage teams, there's some pretty cool stuff here. So let's say I had a requirement that maybe maybe Evan wasn't busy. I could go in and I could look at him and I could say, hey, I need you to go not ready, and I need you to work with somebody, right? So uh, that gives me the ability to see who's doing what right away. And then on the administration side of the house, there's also some really cool items that could be done that I'm sure people would love. So if we scroll down to the advanced capabilities right here, I can see my queue management, my application management, my calendar management, and my outbound campaign management. So these are things that have traditionally only been able to be done by administrators or supervisors that had a lot of training, or maybe you had CCMP. This allows you to do that right inside of the Finesse supervisor screen. So from here, I can look at the different CSQs. And let's say I have hypothetically, I've got a whole bunch of chats queuing up. I could look at this and I could go in here and I could click Manage Queue. It'll pop up another screen. And from here, I could actually add agents. So beyond just Sandra, Josh, and Rick, I could add additional agents. And because I know that Evan wasn't doing anything because I asked him to sign out, I could check his box and I could say that I want him to work until 8 p.m. And that's local server time, I believe. And hit save. It'll ask me if I'm sure I want to do that, and I could click yes. And now I could see that Evan has been added to the queue. I could see when they were added at, why he was added, and by who. All right, so if another supervisor is coming in and they want to look at the queue management, they could see that here. Um, Likewise, if I want to remove Evan from the queue, I could just click remove, and it'll remove him from the chat. And again, I'll be prompted actually this time if I want to do it. So there's two prompts, right? Adding and removing. Are you sure you want to do this? Because this will impact your statistics, and it will impact that agent. So they have to be aware that you're adding them into that queue. Also, you can see up here at the top of the chat queue management that successfully Evan was removed from the chat. So there's no questions. Okay, I can click out of this or X out of this, and it'll take me back to the queue management. And the same thing is available for all the different queues here. Now, from an application management, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with AEF scripting or contact center scripting, but when you create something as a variable, it allows it to be modified. So let's say I wanted to go in here and look at the Cumulus mobile app. I could go in here and I could make sure that I am editing something that's enabled and the right trigger, manage the application, and from in here, I can see that there might be a prompt I could change. So the phone message welcome, I could change that to be a different greeting that's in here, or I could just type something in. So there's some pretty cool configuration options. And then calendars. If I wanted to configure a calendar, I could do that here as well if that was an option. Um, Again, we talked about calendar management. So let's say I wanted to create a holiday schedule or modify a holiday schedule. I could do that here. So I could choose Manage Calendar. And I could look at this and I could customize the customer service queue and create custom business days for that, right? So I could do name of the day, like Columbus Day, or Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever we're calling it now. You could modify that, or if I want to put holidays in here, I could put the name of the day and the date, and keep note that there are limitations to these calendars that it can be managed. So a lot of people choose to create like XML files or external databases that are maintained or updated automatically, and then just point to that to query for what days are holidays. But if you needed to put something in here on the fly, you could do that as well. And then outbound campaign management. So now you obviously can't create a campaign here, but if there's a campaign available, you can upload contacts into that campaign, so that way it can run. And here we're saying that there's a outbound campaign for agents using direct preview. What time does it start and what time does it end? So it's pretty much running all the time, whether it's enabled or not, and then if you want to update contacts. So to update contacts, you can do it a couple different ways. You can point to a CSV file with a manual import, or you can have a scheduled import, again, pointing to a particular directory, and again, it would be a CSV file. And there's these fields that have been configured to match that. And these are the fields that we're expecting: first name, second name, or first name, last name, account number, phone number, etc. So again, if this is important to your customer, you can definitely demo this. And we're going to do this in one of the other demonstrations. Okay. All right, so that's just some of the capabilities that are there. And then if you wanted to look at some of the outbound Acqueon gadgets, like what would be the outbound Acqueon gadget here, you can modify it, and I could look at this call that came out, run that I want to see the outcomes ordered by customer name. It's saved. I can then add this widget and post it. Excuse me, this isn't what I thought it was. From here, I can add widgets into my environment. So here I can add or remove the customer journey. So we have that. Can add sticky notes hypothetically. So I could just drag that down into this screen. Okay. Well, you can cut that out. It didn't work. Anyways, so let me get out of this and pick up where we were. All right, so let's go ahead and log into one of the other agents. So here we're going to log into just a regular agent, our Sandra Jeffers. So again, I want to make sure that I am signed in to Jabber, and I'll show you why this is important in a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and launch my Chrome and connect into the Finesse desktop when it launches. And all of the information about the login and the extensions and everything are in the resource documents, the PDFs. Okay, so here I could see that now I've logged in as her. I could see that there was a test message sent, and I can scroll back and see the earlier message, who it came from, right? I could see my team, my Cumulus agent team summary, the people I work with, and I can look at some of my own statistics, right? Do I have any calls waiting, any longest call in queue, etc. So from here I can go ready or not ready. But let me jump back to Rick's computer here. So here we're showing team messages, but I could also send a message via IMMP from inside of the environment. So when I sign in, oops, Rick Bowers at oops, tcloud.cisco. Okay, I can see Sandra and I can see Josh. Now, what this is this is actually integrated to the I'm in presence, right? So if I was to send a message to Josh, he's not available, right? Test, test. Unable to send that message, right? Now, if I jump over to Josh's computer and I bring up his Jabber, give it just a second. Okay, it's signing in. While that's launching, we'll jump back over. Okay, now that I'm ready as Josh, if I jump back over to Rick's computer, I'll see now that Josh is there, and I can send that again, test, test. And I can look at Josh's computer and it'll be there, test, test. Now, why is this important? Well, some of your agents are going to be using instant message in presence, so they're probably going to be jumping off when they are at lunch. Maybe they've shut down their finesse, but they're probably still going to have their Jabber up. So it's nice to be able to reach out and touch base with them, and remind them that they need to come back from break or whatnot.
Now that you've seen this UCCaaS WebEx Teams demo series, including
WebEx Teams, WebEx Meetings,
WebEx Devices and Control Hub,
Verizon Management Portal, and Contact Center,
if you'd like to arrange a demo for your customers, please reach out to your nearest DBC.
hey, don't forget, folks, many of these demos can be done remotely via WebEx for your accounts.
Thanks for watching.